What's going on, guys? Today I want to share how I fit 305 square on my non-widebody Challenger and why I wanted to do it. I'll also share all the parts that I use so that those that have been asking me about how to do it can replicate it if they really want to. So first, why I wanted to do this. I come from a line of Japanese cars that you have to try and fit as wide of tire as possible to try and get more grip on the road course or at the track. So I took the same philosophy and mindset to the Scat Pack when I got it. I wanted to create an OEM plus build, basically my vision of how I thought the car should come from the factory. And I did a lot of research on the forums, did a lot of my own measurements to try and figure out, like, hey, is it possible to fit 305 square on a non-widebody Challenger? I found out from the research that it is very doable and easy to do in the rear, but the trouble comes when you try and fit the 305 in the front. And nearly every forum post that I read and people that I talked to said that, you know, it's not going to work in the front, and there have been people that tried to do it with different offsets, spacers, and no one seemed to get it the way that they wanted to, or at least the way I wanted it. So this is now getting into how I did it. The rear, like I said, was no problem. The wheels that I use are the Koenig Ampliforms. They're 20 by 11 with a plus 21 offset, which if you're going to try and replicate this setup, I can only attest, this is my PSA or my warning to you, I can only attest to these exact wheels with the exact parts that I use to fit. If you ask me, like, hey, will a 10.5 plus 24 or 20 by 10.5 plus 22 will work? I don't know. All I'll know is this setup works. So I have the Koenig wheels, and then I have the Continental Extreme Contact Sport tires in 305, 35, 20. The other reason I wanted to use those tires in that size was because it has an almost identical rolling diameter to the stock 245s that come on the Challenger Scat Packs. So I didn't want to have to mess around with, adjusting the speedometer or trying to do different calculations. So that's the wheel and tire setup. I'm also lowered on the Eibach Pro Kit. This lowers the car about 1.5 inches in the rear, about 1 inch in the front. And what it does when you lower it, it brings a little bit of camber to the front and the rear. And this is especially important in the front because, as you'll see from some of the pictures, like, it is a very close fit. And I need a little bit of camber to fit that without any rubbing now, as well as for it to give a little extra performance on the track. So that those -2 degrees camber make a big difference. I did not run a camber kit or anything extra. All I did was just get the springs installed and then have an alignment to make sure everything, at least was close to the same side to side. Now the key part for the front, this is where the real work came in. You also need to order some different lug nuts for the wheels that you get. But in the front, I needed a 12 millimeter spacer, and I had to make sure too it was hub centric. That's especially important so you don't get any wobble in the wheel, or vibration at least. And a 20 by 11 plus 9 in the front effectively is what you need to fit a 305 in the front. Now that is about as close as you can get, because I'll try and get a video of it to include in this, but if I don't, I'll talk through it in this part where the tire is super close to I think it's the knuckle on the inside, and you could fit maybe 1 or 2 pieces of paper in between it. That's how close it is. And that's why this measurement is so precise. Is 20 by 11 plus 9 I know will fit with a 305. 315, probably not. Any different offset, probably not. Now the other key part to making this fit in the front is you need to roll a very small section of the fender. That is key, otherwise it will rub. Now after you roll this very small section of the fender, it really doesn't take much. You could take a heat gun and a baseball bat and do it and roll it and have it look professional. Honestly, that's what I did, and it didn't come out looking like bacon or anything like that. Like, Dodge seemingly used good paint, and especially with using a heat gun, like, this came out great. I'm really happy with the way it came out rolling it that way, and it's a very, very small section. You don't want any of the paint to crack, so make sure you use a heat gun. The other part that is optional that I'll be adding here very shortly are extended studs. They're a Dorman model, and I'll include the description here in the area below. And those, I don't think you need those for the street. I think there's plenty of thread for keeping the lug nuts on there on the street. I've had no issue with it. You might get in trouble on the track. That's why I'm doing it, just as a precaution. And it brings the stud length to about how it was when it was stock. So that's an optional piece, but I would still recommend it just as far as safety and peace of mind, if anything. So that's the part rundown, and I think I'll include how much I spent on everything as well in a spreadsheet, and I'll make sure that's easily accessible for you guys. But I just wanted to show and prove that it does fit, and I think it looks pretty damn mean. I'm excited to get the car on the track to see how it performs and what kind of lap times I can put down with the extra grip. The other thing I will add that is important here is that the additional weight some people have been concerned about by adding, such a wider tire and a wider wheel. It's only 1 to 2 pounds heavier per corner. So I will gladly sacrifice that extra 1 to 2 pounds per corner for the extra grip that I have now. And I know going from a dig, it makes a big difference, but I'm less interested in how the car performs at a drag strip or straight line performance. I'm more interested in how it performs on the road course. So I have some baseline times for Thunderhill West and Laguna Seca on stock tires. So I'm curious to see how it does when I go back. And over the next year, I do plan on doing more track events with this car. I wanted to turn it into somewhat of a track yacht, because most people, rightfully so, buy the Camaros and the Mustangs to do more track events. And I think those cars are better suited for the road course, but I wanted to see what I can do with the Challenger and if I can get it to handle pretty well and see what times I can put down, just to see how I improve as well as how the car improves. My thoughts on this setup, so far I'm loving it. I think it looks phenomenal. I shared in another video why I chose these Koenig Ampliform wheels. It basically came down to the quality of the brand, the size that they offered, as well as the design, because I wanted something to look close to the OEM Scat Pack wheels, because again, this is an OEM plus build and how I imagine the car should come from the factory. So yeah, I'll share some more pictures and video here. If you have any questions about the setup, and if I didn't answer any of those basic questions about how to fit those wheels and tires in my setup on the car so that you can run it as well on your Challenger, feel free to drop a question in the comment section, and I'd be happy to answer or make another video if I get enough questions about certain things. End of the day, the 305 will fit square on these cars for those that want to do it. I fucking love this setup. It's so badass. I think it is exactly how it should have come from the factory. It looks mean. It has the grip, just driving around on the street, that you need. And did I mention it looks fucking badass?